Mm.
Hello, and welcome to ConTinual, the convention that is always here for you. My name is Jean Marie Ward, and tonight it's Hot Off the Press, where we talk about some of the best new releases in books and short stories out there. With me tonight are 5 wonderful authors, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to tell you who they are themselves. Okay, take it away, Kim.
Thank you. I'm Kim Fielding, and I write in, I think, all the genres. So a lot of gay romance, science fiction, fantasy, and horror. I think that covers most of it, at least.
So great. Elle?
I am Elle Keaton, and I write primarily contemporary gay romance and romantic suspense, probably more heavily toward that. And there you go.
Okay, Hank.
I am Hank Edwards, and I write gay romance, focusing mostly in paranormal, but I have some contemporary and some humor. Most of the things I write have humor in it. At least I think it's funny. So that's why
we need funny in the 2020s. That's
right?
for sure.
Oh, yes.
Liv.
Hello, I'm Liv, and I write paranormal or historic romance, and I was making a face when Elle introduced herself because my writing partner just sent me a very nice bottle of scotch to celebrate my release day tomorrow.
Whoa, congratulations. Now you're going to have to share.
Yeah, that was why the dog was barking. I don't know if you guys heard. Anyway, yes.
Okay, Miski.
Hi, I'm Miski Harris. I write contemporary gay romance, and I'm trying to be like Kim and do a little bit of everything. So I write gay fiction, and I've dabbled in paranormal.
Okay. So which of these genres does your current release fall into? Tell us a little bit about the book. And its title. Always have to mention that because sometimes people forget.
Yeah.
My current book is Boy Overboard. It's gay romance and gay fiction. I say it that way because I write Fade to Black, Close the Door. You will seldom, if ever, find pages of on-screen sex in my books. So that, yeah, it's contemporary gay romance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, could you tell us a little bit about what happens? I mean, is it on a boat or is it?
Oh, okay.
Give us the back jacket copy.
Yeah, huh?
Give us the back jacket blurb, You're selling it to us.
Rico is a spoiled rich boy. Really. He was the baby of his family, and he grew up never having to want for anything. When he finally gets his bachelor's, his parents award him with My Dream Motorcycle, an Indian Pursuit. It has all the bells and whistles. They also give him a debit card that has about $10,000 on it, because Rico has decided that he is going to be the captain of his own ship, so life ship. And so they send him off with his mother's apron strings in a box, and this debit card. Little does Rico realize that when his mother tells him they both mean the same thing, he didn't get the memo. He's beaten up along his travels and literally left for dead on the side of the road. And he's found by Braxton, who has had to work for everything and is now a successful restaurateur in Stony Brook, which is the Commonwealth town that the All-American Boy series takes place in.
Mhm.
So the book it's a sort of almost a coming of age for both of them, because Braxton is at first very proper, you know. He's very work oriented and a micromanager. And so in the course of the book, Braxton lightens up and Rico gets serious. He gets a lot of help from a character from Elle's book, Ben. He because he winds up staying in the Stony Brook Inn for a while. And Ben is the first person to help him out when he discovers that when his father gave him that 10 grand, he really wasn't going to give him any more, and he's broke. There's an animal rescue in the book that I try not to talk about because I don't want to give it away.
Okay. So it's a contemporary in a small town that's in a shared world, which
During the Tall Ship Festival.
That's where the boy Overboard comes from. Okay.
Right. All of the books take place during the Tall Ships Festival.
Okay.
And the reason I called it Boy Overboard is because Rico's a brat.
Okay. Well, that
So,
works.
Did you ever see the movie? I think it's called Shipwrecked or Overboard, Woman Overboard. It was Goldie Hawn. And remember, she was such a rich brat and she lost her memory. Well, Rico didn't lose his memory, but I wanted to give him those same life lessons.
Okay. Okay. So, Elle, I understand you're in the same universe. So tell us a little bit about your book. I presume that both books are.
Yeah, so this one, Not a Boy, just came out last Friday, and was eight of us, I think nine of something around there, in the shared world, and it's set in it, like Miski said, it's set in Stony Brook, Maine, or it has to take partly place in Stony Brook, Maine. So, and all the titles have to have the word boy in them, so that's where that comes from. I went last because I also have this book coming out on Thursday, and so we'll just save that, but that's why I went last with my release. So yeah, so I mean, I chose Not a Boy because I like to turn tropes on their head a little bit. I don't like to, I don't know, so when I like its age gap, but it's also the younger person's a little more with it than the older person, which is it's a little bit funny. Like I said, I did have a lot of fun writing this book. And then Real Risk, which is third in my West Coast Forensic series, which is set on my fake San Juan Island, which I did not actually burn down, Liv. I don't know if you saw the news. This happens to me all the time. I mean, it's like the fourth time where I've had something in my writing world. So there's all these fires in this one. You can you can't tell, but it's about a fireman. And then the San Juan Islands, there was just a huge arson that had the ATF come out. I was like, I don't need this.
Okay, no books in Maryland for you.
Okay, thank you.
I
I promise.
Just thinking your imaginary island might have been Turtle Island, like that other author, which is not a name of a San Juan island.
No, it's not. No, yeah, no, I know who you're talking about. But I cheated a little bit because Not a Boy starts in Maine, goes to my islands, and then goes back to Maine at the end.
So what is the core plot for Miski is a coming of age of a rich kid who needs to learn some life lessons. What's the core plot for Not a Boy?
Oh, these are hard questions.
Right?
Thank you for laughing. So I guess the core plot is it's have an open mind. You can't plan everything. No, you know, like don't let yourself be I don't know what the word is. I can't think of it. Don't let yourself be hemmed in by what you think is the thing that you need to do. Because really in this case, Ben, who's on the cover, is more, he's younger by, you know, whatever, almost 20 years, but he's definitely more open-minded and willing to grab life by the hands or horns or whatever it is you grab life.
So it's basically at its core a older man, younger man romance.
Yeah.
And the older guy needs to learn more life lessons that he expects, apparently.
Yeah, he does.
And how do the tall ships play into it?
I have him working. So Ben is he wants to learn how to be a hotelier in the hospitality industry, and so he gets an internship over there, and then that's how that plays in. But he doesn't stay there the whole time. He ends up, like I said, he has to go home, and then of course, so what was a one night stand, although I did make it a little more depth than that, ends much quicker than they both expected, but they run into each other again.
Okay. Kim, what about you? Tell us about your new release.
So mine is called Potential Energy. I don't know if, well, you can see it as I do that. And mine is it's something a little different for me. It's a space opera.
Oh,
so
okay.
Like all good space operas, there is a romantic relationship that's part of what's going on, but there's also, you know, spaceships and aliens and pew pew and an evil empire and the whole big thing. So it's about a guy named Has Taylor, who's an interstellar smuggler with a checkered past, and he's a scoundrel, and he is drinking himself to death on a backwater planet when he's offered sort of a deal he can't refuse, which is to return a stolen religious artifact to another planet. And so since he's kind of backed into a corner, he agrees and opens up the door to all sorts of trouble, but also finds a way to find his moral center and learns he's maybe not such a horrible person after all.
We all never recovered from Han Solo, did we?
That's it. Han Solo was my first crush, and
oh, no, me too.
Yeah.
I care about.
Excuse me, ladies. The boy is mine.
Yeah. Liv, what about you? Tell us a little bit about your current release.
So the book that's coming out tomorrow is Redeemed. It's book 3 in my Soulmate series, which is MMM Paranormal. One of my heroes is Tryon. He's a vampire, and Connor is, I'm not exactly sure what, but he's got magic, and David is a werewolf. And so in the second book, Tryon's maker told him he needed to kill Connor, which obviously didn't go over well. So in this book, Tryon has been given one command, kill Connor. Connor has one objective, stay alive, and David has a single desire, save them both. And so it's sort of an exploration of the poly relationship, and all three of them over the course of the 3 books have really come into their power, whatever that means for their different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And this book wraps up a couple of the main story threads that have carried on from the first book, but it leaves a whole lot dangling. So, because when I got to the end, I was like, I'm not done writing these guys. So I left some dangling threads so that I have more to play with.
Okay, cool. Hank, what about your new release?
Excuse me. My new release is no, this side over here. Grave Danger, and it's a kickoff. It's the first book in a second season of my Critter Catchers series. So, Critter Catchers, which the first book is here. It's hard to do.
Terror.
Yeah, Terror by Moonlight.
Okay.
And that has 7 books in it, and it's a humorous, paranormal, contemporary, best friends to lovers to husbands, slow burning romance. Out for you. I threw everything into the pot and I just kind of stirred it up, saw what happened. So it's about 2 best friends that open an animal control business, and they inadvertently get involved in monster cases. So each book is a different monster, and I wrote the first season, 7 books, and felt like, okay, I hear it as a good ending. But then some people were kind of poking at me. They're like, hey, we miss Cody and Demetrius, and look, there's a whole bunch of monsters out there. Why don't you start? And so I kind of came up with some ideas. So I was like, you know what, they could use a whole new, they need a new season. So I've kicked it off. So this just released on Friday, Grave Danger.
Great.
So.
Oh, that's cool. Which actually is a very good segue to my next question, which is, what was the inspiration behind, the specific inspiration behind Grave Danger?
Okay. I really loved writing these guys. Through the first 7 books, I really had fun with them, and they live in a made-up town in Pennsylvania called Parsons Hollow, and it's populated with some very crazy people. So there's a lot of eccentric characters that, were really fun to write, funny family and friends kind of thing. And, Cody and Demetrius, it was fun to explore that relationship and see it build book over book. And I really wanted to see them in a relationship and see how they handled the stresses of not only, what they were building together, but what the outside forces were bringing in on them. And then I wanted to play with some different monsters. So, I had to raise the stakes. So for a second season, I'm calling it Critter Catchers Level Up, because they have to level up to deal with these bigger threats. So I've got some interesting ideas.
What's the monster?
In the first book, it's zombies.
Okay. So Grave Danger.
Yeah, Grave Danger. Great. Yep.
Okay, got it. Liv, what about you? What was the specific inspiration behind this installment of your series?
Well, the series was inspired by Jordan Castillo Price's channeling Morpheus. That's right. The Wild Bill and Michael on the road doing. So when I started writing it, I started with a vampire and a werewolf, and they were supposed to be on the road and having adventures. And then the vampire's ex showed up and he wouldn't leave. So it turned into an MMM romance. And so that's sort of the background for the series. And for this specific book, I really felt like I needed to close off those threads that the story arcs that I had started in the first book. There were a couple that really needed to sort of be wrapped up. And so, yeah, I guess my inspiration would be a feeling of
figuring out
completion.
How to bring all of these threads together and weaving them into a satisfying conclusion, because the setup was already there. Okay, cool.
It was really fun too, because I would be like, oh yeah, I put that in book 1. I could use it, so it was really fun to sort of see how it all worked together.
It's always great when the girls in the basement or the boys in the basement throw up something and you put it in, because it doesn't make any difference not to put it in, and then you come back 6 chapters later and go, that's why it's there.
Yep.
That's why. Yeah. So anyway, that's great. Okay, Miski, what was the specific incident or inspiration behind Boy Overboard?
Ironically, my prior books are very serious. My Don't Ask, Don't Tell series involves airmen who have been discharged or in the process of being discharged, who've been injured and so forth. Everybody's very mature. And again, with Cruz, it was the same thing. The main characters were very mature, solid men,
Right.
with the exception of Danny. So I wanted to have fun with this. And I wanted to write a character that made you just want to slap him. Can we say that? Slap.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And I would say that I accomplished that. Everybody that met Rico, knew Rico, bumped into Rico on a street corner, just wanted to throw him over their knee and straighten him out. But I also wanted it to be a story of redemption. It's an enemies to lovers vibe. And so I didn't just want Rico to be a pain in the butt. I wanted him to find himself, so to speak. He is the absolute, Rico is what I think of every millennial right now, and he has that vibe. So, and ironically, I think that some of his brattiness is influenced by my youngest son, who I hope never sees this. But
once his email, I'll make sure he does.
But he has that, that know-it-all kind of, I don't need anybody to tell me anything. I know who I am. I know what I've got. And that's that. I'm sure we all went through that. And wow, it's a rude awakening when you find out that, your parents really got smart in a short period of time. And all of a sudden you lost all of your good sense. So that's how I put it together. I just really wanted, I needed some time away from broken bones and PTSD, and
that makes perfect sense. The whole world we're all stuck in PTSD at the moment, I think, last couple of years. So
yeah.
What was the inspiration behind deciding to take on a space opera, Kim?
Well, there was Han Solo, of course,
Yes, well, we take that as a given.
Yeah,
I mean,
I had a junior high school, his picture was in my locker, and so, and I've always had a, just a soft spot for the rogue, the bad boy with the heart of gold, and redemption stories anyway.
The scoundrel.
The scoundrel, yeah. And I like space operas. They're a lot of fun. And I had an idea. I have a file where I keep all my story ideas, and most of them are like, a paragraph long at the most. And I started keeping it 10 years ago when my first book was published. In fact, tomorrow is the 10th anniversary of my first book being published.
Congratulations.
So. Congratulations.
Yeah. So I started keeping that file right around then. And this was actually the very first entry in that file. And it was just a scene that had come to me. It was the opening scene and sort of the idea behind it. And for whatever reason, I just, that story just never got written, and that file got longer and longer. I think that file is something like 32 single-spaced pages right now of ideas.
Wow.
So I will die before I ever get to all those ideas, which is like, it's a good thing. But it was there at the beginning, sort of taunting me, and I finally, the time was right, and I sat down, and it was such a joy to write. It's one of those ones, it doesn't happen very often, where it just flows, and it's just such fun. And I think it's because these characters have been, screaming in my head for a decade, and they were really happy to finally get out.
Free!
Yeah, yeah. And they get to shoot at things and, do loop-de-loops in space, and,
How cool is that? Anyway, Elle, basically, what was the specific genesis or inspiration behind Not a Boy?
Well, one was I actually did have kind of a hard time coming up with something for the Shared World series, and then I bought that cover. And that cover is basically the inspiration, because he's not messing around, you know, he just doesn't have time to mess around. That's how he feels about life. And I kind of I know I said this before, but really kind of the other character idea that I was mulling around is what happens when somebody who never breaks their rules, you know, like, and which would be the older Henry, the older person. You know, Henry is my little blurb on the back said Henry should have kept on walking by, you know, but he obviously didn't. So, and he's also the kind of person that has a lot of great advice for all sorts of other people, but never takes it for himself. And I'm sure, I mean, that's just that. And that's kind of that's where I went with that. Like, what happens when that person meets a person who was brought up by a super hippie, Pacific Northwest style, Liv knows what I'm talking about, super hippie, that basically lives the rainbow, and you know, and so these two very opposite people meet, and that's where I went from there. So
Okay, cool. All right. You know,
and I got to write a really fun scene that involves Star Wars, just saying.
Oh, wow, that seems to be a theme we're going on here. Well, about that. Anyway, I'm going to ask around next is, what was the greatest thrill about writing your current story, and what was the greatest challenge? Liv?
So the greatest thrill was, I sort of referred to it in my previous answer, was discovering things that I had put into book one that I could use for this book, and sort of the sense of satisfaction that I got writing the final chapter, where everything was sort of wrapped up. And my writing partner Irene, who is also sort of my alpha reader, she was like, yeah, you button things up, you know, tighter than I probably would have, but it was okay. I love the sort of feeling of completion, but still there's stuff that can carry forward. The biggest challenge was probably feeling like I needed to do justice to the other books. You know, I couldn't just like slam something together. And the first book in particular surprised people. The reviews were strong, and so I wanted to, and one of the things people really liked about the first book, and to a lesser extent the second book, was the pacing and how, you know, action oriented and how things went. So I wanted to not turn it into an angst fest, lots of conversation type book. I wanted to keep things moving, but at the same time address sort of real world issues that might crop up in a poly relationship when you're, you know, one guy's been commanded to kill the other and they're on the run and whatever.
Slight complication there, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It made for some difficulties, yeah.
Okay. Elle, what about you? You know, the best thing, the biggest challenge.
Okay, so really the biggest challenge for me is that this was required to be a novella. So really 40K was the top. And I do write a lot of novellas, but they're hard, right? Because you want to do justice to your characters and make a real story, but you only have a finite, you know, amount of time. And so that was probably the biggest challenge, because really I can make any scene 20 pages long. I mean, like, that is just really not an issue for me. So making sure that I was doing that carefully, you know, and kind of gleaning the right scenes that I wanted to have. And even then, I know that there's people that are like, it's, you know, I did have some of my, you know, readers, so it's so, I want more. Like, well, you're not getting it. No, I didn't say that. You know, who knows? Maybe we'll visit him again. The funnest part was really, you know, like, this one just was the first book in a while that just just, blooped out onto the page. I mean, even the other one that's coming out on Friday was fun to write, but not as fun as this. I got to write about Star Wars. I really enjoyed writing their first meetup, because they do hook up. They meet up on the beach after Henry is spreading his parents' ashes, and Ben is having a picnic, and they meet up on the beach. And I didn't want it to be this kind of just wham bam, thank you ma'am meetup. So it was really fun for me to kind of have that first bit, and that's where the Star Wars conversation comes in, and some other kind of fun stuff. And I also had a lot of fun writing the epilogue, which I don't want to give away, but pirates.
Oh, okay. And Kim, what about biggest thrill, biggest challenge?
For me, other than getting to a story that had been haunting me for so long, the biggest thrill is one of the secondary characters. I often kind of fall for my secondary characters, and this one, I think she may be my favorite ever. She's the ship. Her name is the Dancing Molly, which was a real pirate ship in the Oyster Wars in Virginia, which was staffed by some women and ended up embarrassing the governor of Virginia. So that's really fun anyway. And so I named her after this real pirate ship, and she's I didn't intend on her becoming a full-fledged character, but I'm not much of a plotter anyway, and so things develop as I write, and she became a really important character in her own right, and I just fell in love with her. So meeting Molly and getting to know her, I guess, was one of my biggest joys, and I just really like her. I think the biggest challenge was some of the research. It's space opera, not hard sci-fi, so I didn't have to get too deeply into the science, but you still need to. There's still some science, and I am not I'm not an astrophysicist, so trying to get at least a very basic knowledge of how certain things work in space was necessary. And I could fudge some things, but I needed some basic stuff. So I learned, which is, I like the research part, but some of it was a little bit of a challenge for me.
Okay. Hank, what about you? Biggest thrill, biggest challenge?
I think the biggest thrill was being able to go back to those characters again, and just have a lot of fun, because it was it kind of put them in a more extreme situation and see what that did to them. But then I also brought in a lot of previous secondary characters from the original series, and it was kind of like a big family reunion, and everybody kind of like bickers and gets funny and stuff like that. And the biggest challenge was coming up with something new, like making sure that it felt fresh. It wasn't just like a retread of what I had done in the first 7 books. So I think I did it. So from the reviews I'm seeing, people are like, oh, it's good to see them again and good to see them grow. So it was kind of like it brought a fresh approach. So I think it worked.
Great. Okay. Miski, I held you for last on this one, just as you asked. What was the biggest thrill about writing Boy Overboard, and what was the biggest challenge?
They're both the same. I always wanted to participate in the same World Series. But my perception of how that progressed, and the reality gave me a lot of leeway to do whatever I wanted, but at the same time, I didn't want it to sound like, my characters were in a totally different town from everybody else's. So I'm about to tell on Elle, because she doesn't brag on her own lily pond. So the big thrill for me was, I'm still a relatively young author. I actually started gaining like a name in this business doing reviews. I did one of Kim's earlier books. So for me to be included amongst all these powerful authors was, ice cream cones on Sunday. But I got stuck because I am very visual, and I just could not picture this town. So I DM'd Elle and begged. I ain't too proud to beg. And I begged, please share, you know, I see you have a hotel, and I really need a hotel, and, you know, can we just talk about it? As it turned out, what I was picturing as an inn was her perception as well. And then we got to talking about Ben, because I needed somebody other than Braxton to sort of straighten Rico out, or, you know, be that person that can say, dude, really?
Yeah.
And ironically, we had the same editor. So I get a note from Sandy that says, you've really nailed Ben. And I'm like,
how lovely.
so that was my really big moment, because here I am, little Miski Harris, using Elle Keaton's character, and to have our editor say, you really nailed this character. Man, I didn't care if I sold 1 book or 100 books. It was going to be all the same to me. So, and I did it without cursing.
Well, we're at the point in the show that it doesn't really matter, so that's okay. Actually, we're coming up on the end. So I'm going to ask you, starting with Miski, where can folks find Boy Overboard? Did I get that right? Boy
Yes.
Overboard. Okay. Boy Overboard. And where can they find you on the web?
Much like my name, I'm everywhere. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and I have a web page, and I keep it simple, www.miskiharris.com. That way I'll always remember who I am when I don't know who anybody else is. All of my books right now are on Amazon, and they are on KU and KDP. But if you're a KU person, you might want to, I'm giving a little something away, but you might want to get your hands on Boy Overboard if that's your thing. Because I am the queen of novella writers, but when I turned in Boy Overboard, it just didn't feel finished. I actually had a reviewer ding me because I didn't tell them what happened to Ben.
Dear.
And I wanted to write him back and say, Ben ain't my character. But so if you go to miskiharris.com, that's one place that I try really hard to keep up, and you'll know where I am. Otherwise, I'm really easy to find on Facebook and at wine stores everywhere.
Okay. Anyway, Liv, where can folks find Redeemed, and where can they find you on the web?
So Redeemed is, and Tested Book 2 and Soulmates Book 1 are all in KU, so available exclusively through Amazon. And if, I don't know when this vid will drop, but if you aren't in KU, Soulmates Book 1 is currently priced at 99 cents, and that'll stay on sale towards the end of the month of April. At any rate, they are in KU, and you can find me at livrancourt.com or on just about any social media site, maybe not TikTok yet because I'm old, but most social media sites, some variation of Liv Rancourt, all caps, all smalls, liv.rancourt, something. I'm there.
Okay, cool. Elle?
Where can you find me? No, wait, what was the question?
Oh, the question is, where can folks find Not a Boy and your
That's right.
other, and then where can they find you?
Gotcha. Okay. So Boy, Not a Boy is on KU. So you can read it with your Kindle Unlimited, or you can purchase it for $2.99. Most of my books are on KU, but I do have a significant amount. I have several that are wide, just because they work better as wide books. So not only all my mysteries are on Amazon, that's the only place you're going to find them. But if you're looking for some goofy contemporary romance that's set in Seattle, or another set of novellas that I have that are all sweet with heat, low angst, and lots of pets, because I love pets. Those are all wide, Apple, Kobo, those kinds of things. I can be found on, I have a website with lots of free things. I have a page that's all like, if you join my newsletter, you get free stuff. Facebook is Elle Keaton Writes, I believe. Instagram, I am on TikTok, but I lost my login, so who knows if I'll ever go back. I guess that's about it. I'm everywhere.
Great. Kim, what about you? Where can folks find Potential Energy, and where can they find you?
So Potential Energy is available in trade paperback or ebook at any bookstore, so it's wide. It'll be out in October also in mass market paperback format. So
Oh, cool.
a mass market person, that'll be a fun thing. And you can find me, I'm Kay Fielding Writes pretty much everywhere. I'm a website, Facebook. I'm also too old for TikTok, so I'm not there, but Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the usual spaces.
Okay, great. And Hank?
So Grave Danger is available wide, and it's you can find it at Kobo, Smashwords, Apple, Amazon. The first series, if you want to see how it all begins, the Critter Catchers first 7 books are on Amazon and in Kindle Unlimited. So those are available to borrow with a KU subscription. For me, I have a website, hankedwardsbooks.com. I'm on Facebook, and I have an author reader group. It's Hank's Hangout. And I'm on Twitter. I really don't go out there a lot. It confuses me. So, and TikTok, I haven't even tried to do that yet either. So.
You are not alone.
Yes.
Yes, TikTok is somewhat challenging. Anyway, if you're over the age of 20, that's all I can say.
My kids asked me the other day, so Mom, you shouldn't probably go on TikTok. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah,
And
but
they
BookTok is
keep
a great,
saying there's a TikTok for books,
yeah,
but
BookTok.
as it is, I can't keep up with what I've got. So, and there's no way I'm gonna, prop up a selfie camera and take pictures of me doing things that will hurt. So, I'm like you, Liv. I'm just too old for TikTok, and I have a TikTok because my keeper insisted, but don't ask me how to get into it. I don't even know what my name is on TikTok. Some form of Miski Harris, I guess.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Anyway, who knows what they're posting in your name, though? That's the scary part. Well, I'm sure somebody out there in our audience will be able to tell you, and probably will after this video post. So I want to thank you all for joining us here and wish you all the very best with your new releases. And thank you out there from ConTinual, the convention that's always here when you need us. Good night.
Good night.